Happy Monday, everybody. Monday starts the week, and we are here to make your week a profitable one through the props betting market. We have two games on Monday Night Football to break down. One, we're going to be a lot more in depth than the other because of the Joe Burrow news. Joining me, as always, my fellow prop master, Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com. We have a loaded Sunday with tons of props. We are focusing on Monday Night Football. We're going to break down Philly and Tampa position by position. And Andrew, let's just get right into it. Guys, while you're watching this, please hit the like button while we're breaking down these props for you. Hit the like, subscribe. Tell me your favorite prop for tonight. Andrew and I know what props we love, but I'd love to hear what you guys have to say, especially in this Philly-Tampa game. It's props galore. Lots of big names, especially at the wide receiver position. So, Andrew, you got a promo up. So tell us where we can find you at. Tell us about your promo, and then jump into the quarterbacks for Philly and Tampa.
Andy, great to be here with you. Happy Monday. Look, as much as I love promoting longer-term packages, 30-day, 90-day, full year, the 3-day ones are great. You know, you get a sample size, you get a couple different sports, hopefully, not just football, maybe baseball, NFL, and obviously NHL when it comes back. AM 3-day gets you a 3-day pass for $55. So I have that going on an 8-2 NFL totals run, hoping to build on that for tonight. And before I jump into my two quarterback props I like, Andy, I just heard some news out of Canada, actually. Josh McDaniels has been sent down to the Canadian Football League after what we saw last night. So some coaching changes in the NFL, actually. McDaniels, based on that move, has joined the CFL. Because he turned needing a touchdown into also needing a touchdown. So what a great move there. I couldn't believe
joking.
that.
He's joking, but that is a classic Canadian Football League move. Needing a touchdown, scoring, and still needing a touchdown.
Yeah.
Might as well. All right, what do you like about the quarterbacks?
Look, Andy, I think there hasn't been enough respect on this Buccaneers team quite yet. I know that you can look at who they've played and people can always say that stuff, but I think you can only play who's in front of you. And I actually look at their rush defense, and although it's kind of middle of the pack, it's very consistent. They force teams to throw the ball, and I think this is a big Jalen Hurts game. But I think that it might not be just all long plays. I think they actually might introduce the dink and dunk, kind of what Philadelphia was doing quite a bit last year, getting the running backs involved in the catching game. I'm liking Jalen Hurts over 31 and a half pass attempts. I saw some 31 and a half, saw some 32. I believe he's going to throw the ball a ton. Looking back to 2022, we saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. They ranked around 14th in rushing yards allowed. And I feel like that's going to kind of be one of those things that Philadelphia finds out early, is how tough this team is to deal with. And Jalen Hurts has kind of had some slow starts, which, if I recall, last year you were betting the first half overs quite a bit team total for this Eagles team. I haven't seen the passing game get off to a perfect start right away. Hoping the Eagles can get going right away and build on that and continue to pass the ball. So completions or not, I'm looking at pass attempts tonight for Jalen Hurts. And here's one that the crowd might like, because as much as some people have their players they don't like, I've always picked on Baker Mayfield, Andy. How about Baker to not throw an interception at a pretty good price? Shop around, no INTs yet. He's looked pretty smooth and confident, telling guys to get their weight up. That's his trash talk. So I just think this is one of those props where I'm going to bet it until he throws one type of thing. And I know we're only, a couple weeks in, but one prop from each quarterback there, Andy. Pass attempts for Jalen Hurts. And Baker looking confident so far, making his good reads. I'll take him not to throw a pick.
We don't talk about what our props and our research bring us to conclusion-wise before the game. My number one was Jalen Hurts over pass attempts. I'm with you 100% on this one. I'll go to my second one, since you already did a great job breaking down those pass attempts. Over 1.5 touchdown passes is even money. I think he throws the ball a lot. This is the way to score on the Buccaneers, is through the air. This is the way to move the ball. The only thing that worries me is if they get down on the 1-yard line, he's not going to throw it in. He's going to rush it in with the quarterback push play. But I can see a couple of long passes from Hurts to A.J. Brown, maybe to Devontae Smith. We'll get in that anytime touchdown. Even money at over 1.5 passes, this just feels like a Jalen Hurts breakout game. Tampa's so good against the run, and the way to attack him is through the air. It's a very mirror image of Philly. Philly's kind of the same way, which leads me to, I'm with you that Baker Mayfield has a good night. I'm going to take him over 33.5 pass attempts. Eagles, they do have injuries in the secondary. They're banged up. They've given up 44 attempts to Cousins and 54 to Mac Jones. Baker had 21 versus Minnesota and 26 versus Chicago. And the Eagles, they've given up 104 yards rushing this year. And part of the thing with the Eagles is they like to get out to early leads, Andrew. You talked about how this first half team total was money last year. I haven't really been on it this year, but Philly can turn the game script into where the other team has to catch up with them. And I just don't see a scenario where Tampa Bay is going to be able to run out the clock with Rachaad White. I kind of like him under on his rushing yards, and I think Baker ends up throwing quite a bit. It would also be incredible if we could get a 2-minute drill at the end of the first half. I mean, you could easily eat up 5, 6, 7 pass attempts when you get in there. I think this 33.5 on his pass attempts is pretty low. I think both quarterbacks throw a lot. Agree with you on Hurts and agree with you on Baker. Let's move to running backs. Good luck trying to figure out the Philly running back situation. Andrew, I don't know if you have an opinion on that, but what do we like for the running back props tonight?
Andy, I'll be completely honest. I don't have much for the running backs in this one. This is one where I looked at the receiving. I've got a lot more for the receptions and the receiving here in this one. I know that I guess we're supposed to talk about, I always get confused if I talk about the quarterback rushing in the quarterback section or in the running back section. Obviously, that's a mistake on my part. But I just talked about how I don't think Baker Mayfield's going to throw an interception. Well, I don't think that guy's going to run either. He seems to be someone that's just standing in the pocket. If it's not there, he's throwing the ball away or eating a sack. He is not someone that I think is escaping the pocket, getting on the move. His number is 11.5. And some people might say for a rushing prop, that's not very big, even for a quarterback. Yeah, this is a guy that does not get on the move. When he sees people coming, I don't think he's athletic enough, honestly, and he's not mobile enough to get out of there. And he's going to deal with a pretty tough pass rush. So I'm going to take him under on his rushing yards. Sorry for mixing that up, Andy, but I think Baker Mayfield has an all right night, but I don't think it's on the ground.
Nobody breaks down quarterback rushing props in the running back section like Andrew McGinnis at WagerTalk.com. No, I'm just kidding.
Give me a winner. That's all I care about.
I'm with you. The only thing I came to the conclusion was taking Rachaad White under 48.5 yards rushing. This guy only averaged 3.3 yards a carry against Minnesota and Chicago. Those are two bad rush defenses, and the Eagles are just way better than that. I can't say it's a super confident play. It's a small lean to it. If we didn't say beforehand we were going to talk about running backs, I wouldn't really talk about this one a whole lot. But if you're looking at Rachaad White, it's under or nothing. Now let's move to the wide receivers and tight ends, because I believe we like quite a few of these, and it's almost kind of tough to narrow down. What do you like wide receivers, tight ends? I mean, there's a ton of them. Try and narrow it down. What did you come to the conclusion of the best ones were?
Andy, I don't like to read in too much to narratives, but I feel like with props, it's really hard to. I feel like if anybody watched the Eagles last week, they saw the argument with Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown. I think it's been very clear that he either hasn't been targeted enough or just been put in situations to succeed. I'm taking his number over. I think Smith is going to be covered. People are finally going to just start putting so much attention on him that A.J. Brown's number is dropped. I'm taking a look at him to get it done, not just receptions, but receiving yards. This is a Tampa Bay Bucs team that through their first 2 games so far, they've been really, really, really rough with just giving up 1 or 2 huge plays downfield. And if anybody knows A.J. Brown, that's kind of what he delivers. That's what he does. He uses his speed to get by people in one-on-one situations. I expect a big play from him. I actually might look at Jalen Hurts' longest completion over because of that. But I'm on over 67.5 receiving yards there for A.J. Brown. And before the season, I hyped up Mike Evans. And I actually wish I bet that season-long prop for him. He's had an unbelievable start to the season. I'm not going to go ahead and just look at his receiving yards, though, because I do think that Baker Mayfield's going to be under a lot more pressure. So it's going to be a lot shorter pass. I don't think he has time to create a bunch of big plays downfield. So I'm going to take over 4.5 receptions for Mike Evans. He has 6 through the first 2 games. He's been targeted very heavily. And look, I think this is one of those things where you look at a team that's just not expected to be as great. So because of that, you're getting a lot lower numbers, whether it's receiving, whether it's just in the passing game, whatever it might be. Sometimes there's better props to be made on skill position players on quote unquote bad teams because you're getting much better numbers. I was curious about what your thoughts were on Dallas Goedert, Andy, because I was looking at the under for him. I just thought that number was a little bit too high, but those are one I like from each team there.
I like the receptions totals for both tight ends. I like that Goddard's total is 3.5 and not 4.5. It's a little bit juicy, but he had 0 catches on one target week 1, and we knew that wasn't going to continue. So they come back. He gets 6 catches, only 22 yards, but I really love the 7 targets and the 6 receptions. So I think that's a little bit more indicative of what the rest of the season is going to look like for him as opposed to the 0 for 1 in week 1. So I like the receptions for Dallas Goedert. I got to tell you, I like Cade Otton over 2.5 receptions. This one's a little bit juicy, but I think this is just a fantastic play. He only had 2 catches in week 1, but he had 6 catches on 6 targets in week 2. TJ Hawkinson had 7 catches against Philly. Hunter Henry had 5 catches against Philly. And if I like Baker Mayfield to go over his pass attempts, Mike Evans is going to get his. Some of the other guys are going to get his. But getting a tight end that can exploit that banged up Philly secondary over 2.5, I will be more than happy to lay the juice here. I think that's a very sneaky play. I agree with you on A.J. Brown. I will also add to your analysis that number 1 wide receivers have torched Tampa. Justin Jefferson, 150 yards. DJ Moore had over 100 yards. So I'm with you on the receiving props. If I'm trying to dig deep and find something pretty sneaky, I like that Cade Otton over 2.5 receptions. Andrew, I like the anytime touchdown score. I think you can play A.J. Brown and Devontae Smith because they're both plus money. Plus 135 on A.J. Brown, plus 150 on Devontae Smith. It wouldn't surprise me if both of them caught a touchdown. But if we like Jalen Hurts to throw, a lot, and if I like him to throw over 1.5 touchdown passes, one of those guys is definitely going to get a touchdown. So I think a good way to attack the anytime score would be to sprinkle, maybe split a unit or 2 on A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith. If one of them hits, you lock in profit. If 2 of them hit, you got a really nice payday. Anything for anytime touchdown scores jump out to you in this game?
Yeah, I'm seeing Chris Godwin plus 225. That's one that stuck out for me. And then the A.J. Brown one is one I was looking at there. But Andy, from a prop perspective, last week, I feel like if anybody, remember we were talking last week together, but I was so frustrated I had Swift anytime touchdown, right? And Jalen, and if it goes to the 1 or 2 yard line, it's Jalen Hurts all day. That's his touchdown to be had. So I feel like you talked last week about Christian McCaffrey on a couple different shows here on WagerTalk about saying, how much is too much as far as the juice for certain players. And I'm not saying Hurts is out here on like a 10-game streak for touchdowns, but he's a guy that if it's on the 2nd or 3rd yard line, they're going to go to him. They're not going to a running back. They're because that's going negative. They're going to let him just do it. So even though I won that prop on Swift, I'm nervous to bet any running back props as far as anytime touchdown scores go, as far as the Eagles, because I feel like he is their running back when they're that tight. So it's hard for me not to bet Jalen Hurts to get a touchdown because most nights you're in that situation. You're on the 1 or 2 yard line and you need someone to punch it in for you. So I feel like I have to put him in. But I'd say my play I'd like would be Chris Godwin at plus 225.
Yeah, that's a good one. The Jalen Hurts anytime touchdown, they should put out a bet like a combo. Like if there's a pass interference in the end zone, the next play is a Jalen Hurts rushing touchdown. Yeah, exactly. You know what I mean? Because it's like if there's a pass interference in the end zone, you're like, oh, here comes Jalen Hurts rushing it in. And I got to say, I think we may have taken for granted how difficult that play is. The Eagles make it look so easy. Have you noticed other teams, even in college, trying to run this play and how bad it looks? Like it's not even close. So I think I have to apologize to Philly because they ran that play and it was like, that's a little gimmicky. How hard could that be? And they're like, oh, it's pretty hard. So there's a lot of ways to mess that one up.
When somebody makes something look easy, other people think it's not fair. And then they try and do it too. And they're like, oh, yeah, okay, all right. Maybe it's not that easy.
Oh, yeah. It's like in the NBA saying, we need to get a center like Jokic who can pass the ball like that. Well, that's not exactly the easiest thing. All right. That was your breakdown of Philly and Tampa. Once again, guys, go ahead and hit that like button. I have a Monday Night Football best bet that is up. NFL season continues to roll. We hit our 5% play last night. That's 3-0 this season. That is on a crazy 24-9 run last season and this season on 5% plays. And we have a promo to go for this week. Use the promo code ANDY100. That's ANDY100. That gets you off $100 of a football pass. So you can use this for NFL rest of the season, or if you want to use it for the rest of the NFL plus college football. I bring that up because our theory about betting on college football has worked out great. We do one play a week, and we say we only need one play to turn a profit in college football, and we are 4-0 in college football. We have not lost a college football play. So if you want to get the rest of college football as well as the rest of the NFL season, you can use the promo code ANDY100. It gets $100 off the combination pass for the rest of the season. That does include all the 5% plays. So you get the plays that we're on an insane run on. So use that promo code. We're having a great season, plus 13.7 units and a perfect 4-0 college football run. So we're going to talk briefly about the Rams and the Bengals. I think this is one of the times where Andrew and I would say, you don't have to bet every game. And without the news about Joe Burrow, this is a really tough one to handicap. We're going to give out some props that we like, but be very careful in this game. There's a lot of unknowns. So, Andrew, coming to you, we're not going to go position by position because some of the props aren't even out in this one. What are your thoughts on this game from a prop perspective?
So, Andy, I kind of gave myself a rule this year on prop it up, and I'm about to break it here in week 3 that I wouldn't talk about fantasy football at all. But when I drafted Joe Mixon, everybody warned me that this is going to be a guy that is the number 1 guy in the league at getting you 2 yards. I mean, when it's 3rd and 2, Joe Mixon is your guy. He's a real good. He is your attempts guy over yards most times. I'll tell you guys that. I mean, he is very good at getting you 2 yards and then falling over. Having said that, when we're talking about quarterback injuries, when we're talking about him, Andy and I wondering, well, what's the status here? Who's going to be in? Who's going to be out? Immediately, my brain goes to the rushing props, right? And you look at a guy that's quietly averaging 4.5 yards per carry, playing a team ranked 26th in the league against the run. Everything I've read said that they're getting dominated in the trenches. The Lions have not benefited them at all. I feel like this is going to be the Joe Mixon game, Andy. I feel like he's going to get a lot of touches. He's going to have 1 or 2 big runs to help us get over this number here. And that's probably the one play that I have so far in this game. I think that, what he's faced so far has been difficult for him. And also the positions that the team has put him in as far as the score has taken away from him being able to run the ball. Obviously, when you're down or in tight games, you're not running the ball nearly as much. Excuse me. I'm looking at receptions for Higbee, Andy. 3 catches on 7 targets in his last outing. And you talk about targets in the last segment there. I'm a huge guy that looks at targets. I let somebody off the hook if they have one bad game. I think that if you look to see if a team is really looking someone's direction, giving them the ball quite a bit, giving them opportunities, from one week to the next, he's not going to just have 2 targets tonight because he only caught a few of them last week. Usually you can tell who the options are. He's a big piece for them and a big target. I feel like he can go over his receptions. So Higbee, but I'd say Joe Mixon's probably my favorite prop of this game.
Old 2-yard Mixon. Love it.
Yeah.
Just a couple props to look at in this game. I can't say this is my most confident one. Matthew Stafford over 253.5. He's had two games of over 300 yards. The Bengals have allowed 222 yards last week to the Ravens. But I actually think this is more of a running game for the Rams. I think Bengals could be in real trouble. If Burrow's out or if he's as hobbled as he was in week 1, go back to that week 1 game where they lost 24-3. It was rainy. He was barely moving around. They couldn't get anything done. And I think this is a chance that the Rams could get up, and we see Kyron Williams a lot. This is a limited. There's no Cam Akers there. This is a limited backfield. I'll look at his 14.5 rush attempts. He had 15 in week 1. That was splitting with Cam Akers. And then he had 14 in week 2 against San Fran. That's a good number against the 49ers. That was a close game. They ended up losing, so he didn't get a lot of carries down the stretch. The Bengals have given up 77 rush attempts through 2 games. They're giving up 5 yards a carry. So I'm not really sure that the Bengals are a great rush defense. In fact, I know they're not a great rush defense. So I'll take a look at Kyren Williams over his rush attempts. So I said 222 yards against the Ravens. It was actually a 237. So stat correct me there. But Bengals props, besides Joe Mixon, kind of tough to figure out. So that's your breakdown for the Rams and the Bengals. Once again, be careful on this game. Don't overextend yourself. Don't force anything. Don't push. Don't chase losses. So be real careful on this one. So Andrew and I are going to spend a little bit more time going over numbers we hope to see. And we've got we had a lot of injuries this week that affected running backs. We got some next week, but let's start breaking down what we do know. Andrew, I'll start with, do we keep getting Brock Purdy at over 1.5 touchdown passes? Wouldn't this be great if we keep getting?
I was going to steal that from you. I can't believe this. This is what I hope we do. And you know what? You know what it really is, though? It's because that talented running back room. It's awesome. It's like the best distraction ever. The books won't raise that number to 2.5 because they know how talented the running back room is. I like it, man. And he seems like whether you have to sweat it out or not, he's going to cash it for you. But for the most part, he's hit that early in games. Last week was one of the only times where you kind of had to sweat it.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about this prop is he basically gets 2 every week. So the second they raise it to 2.5, I'm just jumping to the under. Like if it's 1.5, I'm going over. If it's 2.5, I'm going to the under. This Cardinals team is obviously no joke. I don't really see a game script where San Francisco blows out the Cardinals. So yeah, that's the first one that let's just keep playing this Brock Purdy over 1.5 passing touchdown. Gone over in every single home start. Every home start, the guy's thrown 2 touchdown passes or more. Next one, Andrew. This was one of my favorites. I talked about it on several shows. Deshaun Watson over his pass attempts. I hope to get 30.5 again. He had 33 yesterday without Nick Chubb. They're throwing the ball at a higher percentage. His lowest total through 3 games was 29. That was in the blowout win against Cincy. So I love that they gave me 30.5. Even if it jumps up to 31.5, I take this Cleveland passing attack. I know it sounds kind of weird, but they did exactly what they were supposed to do yesterday against Tennessee, which was attack the weak secondary. Amari Cooper had 7 catches for 116 yards. Deshaun Watson had a big day, almost 300 yards. So I'm liking this Deshaun Watson pass attempts, especially with Chubb out. And now we get, Jerome Ford caught a touchdown pass. So I think that kind of lends itself to some good overs for Deshaun Watson on his pass attempts. Anything else jumping off the page for you? Numbers you hope to see for next week?
Andy, when I started getting into pass completion and pass attempt props, I thought it would be so easy to just say, you know what, this team is playing a really hard team, so they're going to have no choice but to throw the ball. We got to take the over. But then I'd realize, well, if they're playing a team that's so much better than them, how much will they actually have the ball? And that's the case for me. What a week coming up for Zach Wilson after the great couple weeks he's had playing against the Chiefs next week here. I think that I'm going to take his under on pass attempts because, he might have to throw the ball a lot. He might be down, 21, points. It does not mean he's going to have the opportunities or complete enough passes to stay on the field to go over that pass attempts number. So I'm going to look at that. As far as another one, I like Jacoby Myers. I want to look towards him next week. They're playing the Chargers. First of all, I feel like most people should get points. Should get on the board against the Chargers. Every receiver seems to have their best game when they play the Chargers. But I think it's a real problem right now in Vegas, the fact that they just have Devontae Adams running all over the place and using his talent to just be pretty much the only consistent pass catcher on the team. It kind of reminds me of the situation we've seen in Buffalo in the past when it's just the Stephon Diggs show. I feel like with Hunter Renfrow and Jacoby Myers, more guys have to be involved in that offense or it's really going to struggle. And here's the difference. So some people might say, well, it's not like we're seeing Devontae Adams not catch those passes. It's not like he's not making the plays. but it doesn't really help you diversify the offense and kind of keep people guessing. I feel like it'd be really beneficial for them to start going towards Jacoby Myers. And against the Chargers, I feel like it's a really good week to do it. So I'm sure I'll probably be talking about that one with you again on Friday. There was one more. Oh, yeah. And this is kind of I want to look at Justin Jefferson to get a touchdown props. He made people sweat again yesterday, Andy. I feel like we still get a pretty good price on him. And I'm in the same boat as you as far as guys like Christian McCaffrey and Jefferson, that if they have good matchups, if they're playing a team you think they should take advantage of, then they're probably going to get in. And, I think it would have been hilarious if he didn't score a touchdown again yesterday, like last week, but I'm looking at a pretty good number for him. And if I can get even close to even money or, in the short minus range, I'll be on it.
To piggyback off your Jacoby Myers, I mean, give me Jimmy Garoppolo to throw an interception. He's going to be throwing the ball a ton next week because the Chargers have a terrible pass defense. He threw 3 last night. That gives him 6 for the year. He's thrown at least 1 interception in every game. Listen, he's going to throw you 1 or 2 just right to the opposing team. Like right pinpoint directly to the wrong team. It's just, can they catch it? So I think you're going to get a good number out because the Chargers are just not a good pass defense. So give me that one. I'm going back to your boy. Give me a good number on A.J. Dillon to smash the under. Give me 35 and a half. Give me 35 and a half rushing yards. The Lions only give up 3.2 yards a carry. You talked about Mixon's great at getting 2 yards. Boy, Dillon averaging 2.7 yards a carry. A.J. Dillon and the unders are just fantastic. Have no idea on the short week if Aaron Jones is going to be there, but A.J. Dillon and the unders are just a match made in heaven. I also think everyone's going to think I'm crazy. I hope the Dolphins have some ridiculously overinflated lines coming off of that massive game yesterday. Like, I don't think people realize how bad the Broncos defense is. This is a Broncos team that gave up 35 to the Commanders. So, like, you can look at how bad they were yesterday, but don't forget they gave up 35 to the horrific Commanders. And they get the Bills. The Bills gave up 3 points to the Commanders and 10 to the Raiders. This is a good defense. I think the public is going to be excited to play the Dolphins over everything. I think the Bills are just going to be much, 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 much better. And a lot of that, those yards and those points were when the game was completely out of control. And you can tell Denver didn't really care. This is going to be a different game. And, the other interesting thing that we talked about is some of these teams that aren't used to playing in hot temperatures, the first time they go down and play in Miami, they get gassed. And this was the first time that Denver team had been out of Denver. And you could tell in the second half, they were just done. So I think we're going to get some pretty overinflated Dolphins lines. Now, that being said, you have to have cojones to take unders on the Miami Dolphins at this point. But they're not going to go over every game. The books are not going to allow themselves to get beat up by these Tyreek Hill numbers and, Raheem Mostert. So I want those. Another one I want, Andrew, is Chris Olave over 5.5 receptions. Jameis Winston, 10 of 16 when he came in. I would assume Carr is not going to be able to play. He looked like he was in a lot of pain. It looked like he avoided a major injury, but my guess is if that shoulder is really hurting him, we get Jameis. Olave has 8, 6, and 8 catches, and they're playing the Buccaneers. Great rush D, bad pass D. We'll see it probably on display, but I would think the books would be nervous to pop that number up to 6.5. And if it's 5.5, I would be absolutely fine with taking the over in there. He's a clear-cut number one, and I know that they're getting the Kamara back, but I still don't think it takes away from what Olave can do. And then who would have thunk, Andrew, the passing attack I'm really interested in keep playing is the Houston Texans. Give me C.J. Stroud over his passing. That guy's got legit weapons. I mean, Nico Collins supposedly is the number one, but what's happening is the opposing team yesterday, they focused on Nico Collins and allowed Tank Dell to go ballistic. He was running wide open, and they can't run the ball. It's a bad offensive line for the running game, but C.J. Stroud, and this is a fading of the Steelers' defense. That Steelers' defense is not great, despite the fact they won last night. They gave up a lot of passing yards. You can run on them. So C.J. Stroud had 242 yards against Baltimore, 384 against the Colts, 280 against the Jaguars. I hope I get a good CJ Stroud number, 250 and under. I would absolutely be taking it because that's how the Houston Texans are going to attack you, is through the air, because the running game just is not going to be able to get it done a lot. So those are some other ones. All right, we have to talk about the game of the week next week, Andrew. This is a team that gave up 70 points, and they're 2.5-point favorites. This is the Broncos, and this is the Broncos and the Bears. Now, listen, a lot of people may think, oh, this is ridiculous. Why talk about this game? I think this is a great game to bet on props. I think there's some real sneaky plays in this one. Off the top of your head, what are you looking at? What are you exciting for some lines to come out in Bears and Broncos?
I'm excited to bet unders. I mean, I know that some might say like it's one of those things where you look at a team having a big week like the Dolphins, and the next week maybe you want to look at unders, and maybe you look at some teams like the Broncos and Bears not playing well, and the next week you want to be contrarian and go towards the overs. No, thank you. I'm good on that. I'm going to take Justin Fields' longest completion under. He's just not throwing the ball too deep. He doesn't have that many weapons. I'm sorry, but you can defend a quarterback all you want and say they don't have that many weapons either. But when the quarterback says his coaches are making him think too much, not letting him use his instinct, dude, you're an NFL quarterback. You're supposed to be you're supposed to be thinking pretty hard when you're out there. So that one kind of caught me off guard a little bit. I'm going to look towards the Russell Wilson actually passing prop to the over on his yards. The irony is, even though they got spanked so bad, he still put up so many yards, but obviously he had to do something when the team against he's putting up that many points like the Dolphins were. But the Bears are giving up yards to every quarterback they're playing, and Russell Wilson's number isn't going to be that high. And I wanted to look at Marvin Mims Jr. over on receptions, Andy. I love those low reception props. I feel like we're going to get a pretty good number on him, so I'll be all over that. And my favorite thing to do in games like this, when you have two bad teams, is look at field goals. Teams that can't finish when they get to the red zone. I think this is a good over 3.5 field goal game. When you see the games of the week with the two best teams, I understand defense could come into it, but when you got two awesome teams, I don't really want to look towards field goals. But when you have a game like this, they're going to take points however they can get those points. So I think over 3.5 field goals might be a play there. And I do want to mention really quick that I do like Jake Elliott tonight over 1.5 field goals. We didn't do special teams, but that's one play I do like for tonight as well.
Love it. I'm looking at Russell Wilson over his longest completion. He had a 38-yarder, a 45-yarder yesterday. Even Courtland Sutton caught a 25-yarder. They've got deep threats, and that play continues to hit. For the Bears, it's really hard to say what to do here. I talked about Khalil Herbert under, and he did go under his 35.5. But he had 7 carries for 31 yards. That's 4.4 yards a carry. As ugly as it sounds, Andrew, as hold your nose as this may sound, give me Khalil Herbert over if they give me 35.5 or 37.5. This Broncos defense is terrible. And I said I thought this Chiefs defense was legit, and I know they beat up on a bad Bears team. But they are legit. With Chris Jones in there, that is a top 5 defense. Now, especially with the Cowboys, with Trayvon Diggs out, who knows what that Cowboys defense is going to look like. I think the Chiefs are maybe a little bit better than the Cowboys right now that Diggs is out. So, Khalil Herbert averaged 4.4 yards a carry against that defense. What can he do against Denver? I think he goes over. I think it's going to be one of those low numbers that he's coming off of a couple of terrible games, but a defense doesn't get as bad as Denver does. So as brutal as it may sound, he may only need 8 or 9 carries, and I think he can get it if this game is close. So
that's the best part about it. You won't need that. You won't need that many carries.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And if they're ahead somehow, like if Denver's just mailed it in, he's going to get 12 carries. So I like the Russell Wilson over, and I like the Khalil Herbert over. I hope I get 35.5 again. That number opened at 37.5, went down to 35.5, and he still only had 31. But actually, 7 for 31 is not bad against the Chiefs in a game where he split carries with Roschon Johnson, and they only scored 10 points. So,
Andy, doesn't this feel to you like that's the game that Russell Wilson's gonna going to just be himself again. Like, I know he had 300 yards in defeat, but I have a feeling that with this matchup, we're going to just see Russell Wilson look like the guy everybody wants him to be for this Denver team. And then when the game's over, everyone's going to remind those people that they played the Bears. I just kind of had that feeling that, all the let Russ cook stuff and everything like that. I mean, the importance of him having a big day finally for this team, like, and actually in a win is so big that I feel like it might happen next weekend, but then people are going to sit back and say, let's hold our horses here. That's only against the Bears. But something tells me we're going to see a big week from Russ. I really think we're going to see it. Then we're going to see overinflated numbers the next week, and we'll bet the unders.
Well, it's a tough spot for both teams. This is a get right spot for both teams. They're both being like, God, we're playing the Broncos. Surely we can win. And the Broncos like, God, we're playing the Bears. Surely we win. So whoever loses this game, oh boy. Oh, that's morale is an all-time low. So yeah, you're right. Somebody's going to walk away going, no, that was a great get-right spot. Oh, we beat up a bad team. So I'll be excited to see those numbers that are coming out. So, all right, guys, that's going to do it for us. Andrew, one more time, give us that promo that you got. And guys, while you're finishing up the show, hit the like button. Tell us your favorite prop for Monday Night Football. Andrew, run that promo by us one more time.
Promo code AM3DAY gets you a 3-day all sports pass for $55. That's AM3DAY. Get every sport I'm handicapping right now. Got some NFL plays going for tonight. A best bet included. We got NHL on the horizon. I will be betting preseason, and we have MLB on a quiet run here in the MLB. So don't forget about baseball, guys.
Yeah, for myself, you can use the promo code ANDY100, ANDY100, get you $100 off the rest of the NFL season, or if you want to use it on a combination of college football and NFL. 3-0 NFL 5% plays, 4-0 in college football plays. We're only doing one play a week. Low volume is working out great. All right, that's going to do it for us, guys. If you're enjoying gambling content on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, make sure you check out all of our other content. We have so many individual game breakdowns for college football and for NFL. Please check them out. They're only a few minutes long. Everyone does a fantastic job and gives you some really good gems and nuggets. Check all those out. We get them up early in the week so you guys can get ready for the weekend. And don't forget Wager Talk today, Monday through Friday at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thank you to Andrew McGinnis from WagerTalk.com. I'm Andy Lang from WagerTalk.com. Good luck on all your bets, and we will see everyone Friday on Prop It Up.